that is very me focused. We have been brainwashed by commercials, ads, and the media to be prideful, selfish, and self-centered, which has led to damaged families, relationships, and finances. It is a problem that affects millions of people, people of all ages and all walks of life. But today I want to specifically discuss this issue within the underground subculture. God has handcrafted each and every one of us. We are all different and all unique. I am no less righteous or godly because I am goth or ride a Harley. I was born this way. Black has been my favorite color since the second grade, which was back in the 70s when black clothing was not so popular. But for years I tried to fit in with the mainstream world. I wore pastel preppy sweaters in high school with big fake beaded necklaces, popular in the 80s. Those of you over 35 remember that. And it pretty much looked like everyone else in my high school class. But deep inside, I was going through an identity crisis, feeling suffocated trying to be someone God did not create me to be. It wasn't until my 20s that God sat me down and said, look, you don't need to do this to yourself. Be who I made you to be. At that moment, I was totally freed from bondage. My depression and low self-image faded, and I had a new purpose, a godly purpose in life, surrounded by motorcycles, black leather, and gothic heavy metal music. Heaven on earth. However, the catch that always seems to hang over the heads of us bikers, goths, gays, and heavy metal heads is this. Are we simply living out who God created us to be, or are we kidding ourselves and being led by the enemy to be a stereotype? If we are Christians, this is a question we all need to seriously visit. No one on earth can answer this question for you. You must discuss it with the Lord. And I have found in my experience that God will either give you peace in who you are, or He will make you very uncomfortable with some things in your life, which should indicate that, the enemy is the power behind certain aspects of your lifestyle and not God. Not only that, there are some absolutes that are black and white when it comes to embracing our unique God-given natures in the subculture. Occult practices, witchcraft, pagan religion, all these things are extremely offensive and absolutely intolerable to God. As Christians, we cannot participate in, dabble with, or approve of these things. Tarot cards, Ouija boards, New Age divination, occultic symbols and jewelry, spells, astrology and horoscopes taken seriously, satanic music, and so on. We should be representing and advertising God's kingdom, not the enemy's. Secondly, arrogance, hatred, violence, lewd talk and behavior, loose morals, and self-centered pride, which are too often tied to our dark subculture identities, are also not pleasing to God and are pathetic weaknesses if present in our lives. I beg you, be honest with yourself and what God is telling you about various aspects of your lifestyle. The next thing we need to talk about regarding our identity is what is in our hearts. It is one thing to live out who God made us to be, but it is an entirely different monster when we go through life without any regard or respect for those around us. I'm going to throw out a few questions of scruples to kind of illustrate my point. At your beloved grandmother's funeral, which will draw a conservative crowd, you choose to A. come screaming into the church parking lot on your hardtail Harley Davidson wearing the most offensive t-shirt you own to shock and offend people because it is your right to do whatever you want and the rest of the world needs to just accept it. Or B. you ride your Harley into the church parking lot without unnecessarily revving your pipes and you choose to wear a slightly dressier shirt underneath your leathers. Okay, question 2. When visiting a new church, you, A, wear as many spikes and chains as you can with your ripped up jeans and a 1/4 inch of black eyeliner in an effort to get kicked out of the church, self-righteously proving to yourself that you are the real Christian and they are not. Or B, you choose to still be yourself and wear something a little less threatening out of your closet, and you are polite to people at the church, respecting their beliefs and values even if they are different from your own. Question 3. When eating at the local Taco Bell, you A, get angry and offended when people look at you in shock and dismay, which fuels your disdain for humanity even more. Or B, are you polite and say hi to people around you, realizing that God made you different from what the world considers normal, and you forgive people for their lack of understanding? So to those of you who answered A to any of these questions, A stands for one thing: you're an asshole, and you need to get over yourself and start having respect for others. We are not doing God's will by intentionally offending others by supposedly being who God created us to be. Even the queen of Gothic charm herself has this to say about it.
Because we goths look different, we're going to get asked questions. And you know what? We're probably getting asked the same question over and over and over. Is that a costume? Are you in a play? But the person asking that question, it's probably their first time being brave enough to talk to one of us spooky black-clad types. So don't snarl at them. And don't be a jerk. And you know what? The really big thing? Being polite and being a goth is the most subversive thing you can do. People expect us black-clad weirdos to be surly, to be depressed, to be scary and mean. What if we break that stereotype? It messes with people's heads, that's what! People get really weirded out when you look like you escaped out of Tim Burton's brain, and then you say please and thank you, or you say excuse me when trying to reach past someone to get to the ice cream. Questions nicely. It weirds them out in a good way, but it still weirds them out because they don't expect us to be polite. And weirding them out in that way is one of the most fun things you can do.
In addition to this, the Bible states more than once we are to respect our elders and have loving respect for the godly values and traditions of those around us. Doing this is not conformity, it is showing God's love to others, which is far more important than always being true to our own fashion sense or self-image. The Apostle Paul had this to say about his own identity in 1 Corinthians. Paul says, "To the Jews I become like a Jew to win the Jews. To those under the law I become like one under the law, though I myself am not under the law, so as to win those under the law. To those not having the law I become like one not having the law, though I am not free from God's law, but am under Christ's law, so as to win those not having the law. To the weak I become weak, to win the weak. I have become all things to all people, so that by all possible means I might save some. I do all this for the sake of the gospel, that I may share in its blessings." And now I am going to rewrite this passage in words that I think Paul might use today regarding our dark identities. Ravens, are you starting to catch my drift? The gist of this week's message is this: our personal lifestyle and identity is an important thing to us because it is directly tied to how God made us. However, we need to remember God's kingdom trumps our little individual kingdoms. So we need to submit to God's kingship in our lives by seeking to live in harmony with those around us, even if it means toning ourselves down a notch once in a while so we don't scare or offend the old people in church or anyone else for that matter. It's all about compromise and respect for others. That is all for today. God bless and have a great week.